Hello, my name is Michael Gomez. I am a fourth-year PhD student here at UCR in the Materials Science.
University of California, Riverside?
Yes, in the Materials Science Engineering program.
So you started in...
I started here in 2009 as an undergrad. I did my undergrad in Materials Science Engineering as well, and I went straight from undergrad to PhD.
So in 2013 you started your PhD?
2013 I started, and I should graduate in 2017 this summer.
Mm-hmm. So can you tell us where all you applied after your undergrad for PhD?
I applied to several locations, but I didn't really finish the application because my GPA wasn't so great. So what I did was I went around during the summer between my graduation of undergrad to PhD. I went to I emailed every professor I could in my department, and I said, listen, this is my situation. I want to check out your lab. I'll work there. I just graduated. And of the places, one place answered me, and I worked there for about a month or so with grad students, and they then had a meeting with the professor, said, how does he work, what is he like? And it seemed that I was a good fit, especially to take over a system, so they thought I was good enough, so they kept me.
Okay, so you tried to establish a rapport with the professor before you finished your application, and then you decided to work with him?
Agreed, yes.
So, what kind of research do you do?
My research focuses on X-ray photoelectron spectroscopy, studying thin film semiconductors. I
see. So, how many students were in your class, PhD students, in your batch?
I think there are mine 4.
I see. So what is the funding situation like? Are they able to get complete funding?
It depends on the person. Some people get grants and stuff, but I'd say the number one issue of continuing grad school is money. Because let's say you are not the most effective student, but if you have funding, they're of course going to take you because you're there to work. But
I see.
It takes much more without money.
Okay. So what was your GRE score? Do you remember?
Exactly, I couldn't say, but I passed the minimum requirement. There's a minimum requirement on this school, which I'm not sure if it's very stellar, but I got that much.
I see. So did you have any work experience after undergrad?
No, I worked in research labs here during
just
my
for a few months?
I did for a couple of years actually. In undergrad, during my undergrad, I did 1 year, and then I went to different labs in undergrad, and then but I went straight from undergrad to PhD.
PhD.
Yeah.
So no work experience.
No.
Really. Okay. So after your PhD, do you want to be in academia or industry? Or?
I would do anything. I came into PhD to learn. That I felt after my undergraduate that I just didn't know enough, and I wanted to learn more. So I would do anything where I'm learning and growing as a person.
I see. So what kind of advice do you have for future students?
I would say the number one advice is get to know your professor, because they're going to be your parent for the next 4 or 5 years. And if you don't know your professor, you might not match well with them, and there could be very negative or positive things that come about. So I would say,
when you say know your professor, not just by research,
not just by research. The research will be there. That's easy to find. Read papers. I'm saying know the professor, because it is going to be like they are your parent. Like imagine picking a parent and saying, "This is the one I want."
You mean like know their personality?
Their personality. I would say more than the research, because the research can change. You could change professor, change research. You can change it down the line, even if it's.
But you're saying you don't want to get stuck with a cranky professor.
Agreed.
So there have been a lot of instances in some programs, PhD programs, they pick the wrong kind of person. He may be a great researcher, but he may not be a good person. And then that professor ends up screwing the student's career. It happens a lot. They have a lot of interpersonal problems.
It does, and I think that's the number one. If I could say anything about grad school, I would say don't worry about the time. Don't worry about going right away. Take your time.
Don't be desperate.
Don't be desperate. Desperate leads to bad things. Go to extension centers, go to community college, do whatever you need to do, and when you find the right professor, everything else will fall into place, and it will be a beautiful experience.
So how do you try and assess the personality of a professor?
I would say don't do it by meeting with the professor, because if they're good, of course they're going to be nice, but if they're not, you don't know. You can't know. Just like meeting anyone, you have to know the people that they work with. I would say talk to the senior people, because they're the ones who've really been there long. They're the ones who really know what's going on, whether they're a really good professor, whether they're a bad professor. They're the ones.
So talk to your seniors, is what you're saying.
Talk to the senior grad students
who have worked with these professors,
because they will know, and they will guide you.
I see.
And listen to them. They will guide you.
I see. That's a very useful kind of advice. So based on your experiences, how strongly would you recommend this program to future students?
The MSc program, I would.
On a scale like 5-star rating?
I can't rate it because it's not the program. It's
your experience, based on your experience.
Agreed, my experience, but my experience does not. That would be like saying, what do I rate America? You know, in my experience is not the same as everybody's experience. So, and the program is.
We're just asking about your experience.
Agreed, but I think that would paint. That would give a singular data point as opposed to.
Yeah, but if we collect like about 100,000 data points about something, then each single point makes all the difference, right?
Agreed. Okay.
We are just talking about your experience. How?
Okay,
What was your experience on a scale of 5?
My experience has been difficult. So I don't know how to rate it.
So if you had to give a 5-star rating, what would you give?
I don't think I will give a 5-star rating. I will simply say that my experience has been difficult.
So, like, how many stars would you give?
I'm not gonna say a star.
Just roughly on a scale of 5.
I'm not gonna say it.
You're not gonna say it?
No.
Okay, I won't force you. So, I wish you best of luck, and if you do have any problems, I hope they get resolved soon. I'm sure students can avail of a lot of facilities, right? So maybe if they have problems with the professor, maybe they should escalate it early on before it gets too late, right?
Well, yeah, of course. I would think the first step would be
Escalate it higher up?
Would be to get to know your professor. Get to find a professor that suits you and pick one that you're gonna have a lovely time with and stick with them.
And if you do have problems, escalate it to higher ups early on?
I would say it's much more difficult to do that. It's almost like, how do you get out of a bad situation? You don't get in the bad situation to begin with.
No, but what if you do end up there?
Then
get out sooner than later.
I would say get out sooner than later, of course.
Okay.
That's really the only thing is to change lives, because there's not so much that you can do. I would say preventative is better than trying to fix it after.
I see. All right. So thank you very much, and wish you graduate with a PhD successfully, and wish you best of luck.